History to RPGs, the Final Fantasy series is full of lengthy, epic adventures for you to spend your time leveling and questing in. If you want to commit to the grandest of journeys in the Final Fantasy series, these are the games that will take the longest amount of time to get to credits. What may be the most beloved spin-off of the Final Fantasy saga, Final Fantasy Tactics has seen only a few releases since its initial debut. Final Fantasy Tactics: The War of the Lions is an updated re-release of the original PS1 title featuring gameplay tweaks and a host of other refinements. Initially released on the Sony PSP, it exists today on iOS and Android, and is just slightly shorter than the original title. The newest numbered entry in the Final Fantasy franchise, Final Fantasy XVI, sees a grim, dark fantasy world improved by the will and strength of Clive Rossfield. Its lengthy campaign trades in traditional RPG customization for icon abilities and action combat, allowing players to live out their Devil May Cry acrobatic dreams in the world of Final Fantasy. Upon its release, Final Fantasy XIII received a fair bit of flack for being mainly linear and only opening up after 20 hours. It may seem like a lot, but considering this first adventure with Lightning is just under 60 hours, the majority of the game is non-linear, and fans of this title still hold it in high regard. While not a direct sequel, Final Fantasy Tactics Advance is a fun and worthwhile tactics entry in its own right. Releasing on the Game Boy Advance, this more lighthearted story stands out from other RPGs on the GBA, and within the Final Fantasy Tactics subseries. The love story of Tidus and Yuna spans a grand narrative in Final Fantasy X. The first entry with full voice acting, the intense progression of the sphere grid, and the ability to dig deep into side content makes this hefty PS2 RPG stand as one of the longest the series has seen so far. Building off the events of Final Fantasy XII and setting itself in the world of Ivalice, Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift leans closer to the tone of Final Fantasy Tactics Advance than the darker tone of the original. Those that played this title praise its fun and strategic gameplay. Almost too big for its own good, Final Fantasy XII is one of the longest games a fan of Final Fantasy can easily get through today. Having a grand world to explore across various zones, a wonderful sense of scope, and re-releases with a fast-forward option make this journey through Ivalice memorable and manageable. The most recent MMO title in the Final Fantasy series, Final Fantasy XIV, has seen a host of updates, expansions, and content drops to its ever-growing world that add up to make it one of the longest journeys in the franchise. With a story that's frequently touted as one of the best the series has to offer, this lengthy journey will be worth it for those that invest. Since its debut in 2002 all the way to its most recent expansion in 2015, Final Fantasy XI is easily the most dense and time-consuming game in the Final Fantasy franchise. Having 12 major DLC expansions in addition to the base game, the main story can be completed in 100 hours, but for those that want to see it all, they may be looking at a whopping 700 plus. Regardless of where you start your Final Fantasy journey, you'll hardly find yourself hungry for another adventure. For more videos like this, stay tuned to Game Rant.